In this chapter's project, we're going to be building a image gallery using HTML, CSS, and jQuery. So there's a few distinct features about this gallery. I just called it P Gallery for Portfolio Gallery. Basically, this would be for a web design or web programming company for their portfolio. Okay, so we have a bunch of images, and they're categorized. So up here we're showing all projects. We can click on design and it'll filter through the projects that are labeled with design, programming, CMS, and you can see we have a little fade effect as well. Okay, so that's the first main feature of this gallery. The second is that we have this overlay. Alright, so we can have an image, we overlay it, and you can see the project title and description. And I also have a light search icon behind the text. Alright, so that makes it look nice. And the last feature is if we click on it, it opens a light box and shows us the title and not only the image, this image, but we can actually scroll through the entire gallery. We can go forward, backwards, and close it out. Alright, so a couple neat features. For the light box, we'll be using the Fancy Box jQuery plugin. Or not, actually it's not a plugin, it's just a jQuery script. And let's take a look at that. Everything else will be done custom. Alright, so basically if we go here, Fancy Box, it's going to give us the download page, and there's instructions on how to use it, what libraries and files we need to include, and all of that. Alright, so we'll get to that. First thing I want to do, as always, we're going to create the interface, the HTML and CSS. So let's start with that. Alright, so I'm going to go and create a new folder and just call it P Gallery. Okay, so this is going to have just our basic structure. We'll have our index page. Okay, we'll have our CSS folder. We'll have our JavaScript folder and an images folder. For the images, I'm going to grab them from the completed project. So what we have here is basically we have 11 sample projects. They're basically just templates that I found online, and I've resized them all to 700 by 700 so that they're bigger when the lightbox shows them. Okay, and then up here we just have the images for the Fancy Box, arrows, close button. So we're going to take all those and put them into our images folder. Alright, so let's create the style sheet. And our JavaScript file. Okay, and we'll open all of these. Okay, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Alright, so let's start with our doc type. HTML tags. Okay, we want our head area, and inside the head we'll have our title. Just say P Gallery. We'll say just view portfolio. Okay, we want to link the style sheet. And the href is going to be css/style.css, and JavaScript Okay, script src js/script.js, and we need the Google jQuery CDN. It's funny, I use this so much and I just can't remember the URL. Okay, we'll grab that, put that in here. Make sure if you're just using your local host, just do https:/. Okay, so the body tags. Alright. So the first thing we want is the header. Okay, so header. And inside there we're going to have an h1. Okay, h1, let's give this a class of logo. This is going to act as our logo branding. Okay, and it's just going to say P gallery. And then we want a nav tag for our menu. And we're going to put a UL in here. Alright, so let's put our links. We'll do home. And they're all going to go nowhere because we're going to handle that in the JavaScript. Okay, and this is going to be our categories. So design and programming. And CMS. Now, when we do our JavaScript, we're going to be looking at the text in here, and that's basically going to filter out the categories. Okay, so all the images that have a class of design will be in that category if they have a class of programming, or they can have multiple classes, design and programming, so they'll show up in both categories. So that's how that's going to work. Okay, under the header, we want a tagline, which will be in a section with a class of tagline. Okay, and let's see, we're going to have a container. And this will be an H1, and I'm going to say view our work. Okay, so that's that, and we'll have another section, and this will be where the main content, where the gallery is going to go. So we need a container. And then we'll have an H1 with the class or the ID of heading, because we're going to actually grab this H1 tag and change it depending on the category, but for default we just want it to say all projects. Okay, then we need a UL, and we'll give this an ID of gallery. Okay, and then we'll have our LIs, and let's see, we're going to want links, and the attributes and stuff we'll add later on. Okay, so right now we just want the images, so image src, going to go into the images folder, and then I think they're web1 JPEG. Okay, let's take a look at that. Alright, so it's getting our first project image, which is 700 by 700. Obviously we'll shrink the thumbnails down. Okay, so let's just do a few of these. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. All right. So that's pretty much it. We'll just throw a footer in here. Paragraph. Say copyright 2014, all rights reserved. Obviously this is fictitious. Okay, so that's it for the HTML. Let's go ahead and do the CSS. Okay, so we'll start with the body. I want a margin 0, padding 0. For font family, I'm going to use Arial. And let's see, we want font size. And let's do 15 for that. And then the color is going to be a darker gray. And we'll give it a line height. Spell it right. Line height is going to be 1.6 m. Alright, now the links, I just want to make the color dark gray. And text decoration should be none. Okay, the container class, we'll have a width. Now you'll usually see me use an ID for the container, but that's when I'm wrapping the entire thing in the container and there's only one. In this case, for instance, the header, if we look at the final project, we want the black and the green here to display across the entire thing. So we can't have a container around that. So we're using a class inside of those. Okay, so that's how that works, if you're wondering why I'm using a class. 80%, this is going to be, yeah, I didn't even show you, this is going to be responsive. Okay, so if we shrink this, alright, so you can see that the menu's changed, everything's centered. Now we have 2 rows. If we keep going, turns into 1 row. Alright, so that looks really good. So it's fully responsive. Should have mentioned that earlier. And then we want the margin is going to be auto. And overflow also will be auto. Okay, next we'll do the header. The header is going to have a really dark gray background. And I'm going to give it a minimum height of 55 pixels. And the reason I'm not giving it just a regular height is because when it's responsive, we need it to grow. Okay, if we had it a fixed height, then the menu wouldn't show, or it'd have a big ugly scroll bar. Alright, so we're going to make the color white. And then the header links. Make sure the color is white for those. And text decoration. Actually, I don't think we need that. We already have decoration. So the logo is in the header, and I want that to float to the left. Alright, and I'm going to set the width of this to 30% and a margin top to 15 pixels. Okay, and then the navigation is going to float right. Okay, it's going to float right, and I'm going to give it a width. Okay, a width of 70%. Alright, so let's check this out so far. Okay, Nothing's happening. CSS style.css. Oh, I didn't save it. Alright. So let's see, what do we want? The navigation. The navigation UL we want to float to the right. Alright, and the list items. List items, I want list style none. And float to the left. And padding, I want 10 on the right and left. So 0, 10. Okay, the links need to be white. And we'll give it a padding bottom of 5 pixels. Okay, now the current link I want to be styled that greenish bluish color. So I'm going to say nav li dot current a and also nav a hover. And these will have a color of 038 99C, which is that greenish color. And also we'll have a border bottom, and that'll be that same color, 038 99C, and that's going to be 3 pixels solid. Alright, let's try that. Okay. Now you can see the menu actually isn't in a container, so let me fix that. So header, actually wait a minute, the header holds the navigation. Alright, so we just need to put a container inside of the header. Alright, let's try that. There we go. Okay, and let's add a class. Actually, never mind. This shouldn't say home, it should say all projects. Alright, so back to the CSS. We're going to say section. Okay, so all sections, I want to have padding 20 on the top and bottom. Also, overflow should be hidden. Alright, so next let's do the tagline section. Tagline is going to have that greenish background, which is 03899C. And let's see, the color should be white. And then the H1 I want to align to the center. Okay, and then I'm going to set the font size to 35 pixels. Okay, so let's check that out. Okay, so moving on to the gallery. So the gallery itself, let's set list style to none. And what else? I want to zero out the margin and the padding. Alright, and then the width, will be 100%. Okay, now the gallery list items. Okay, I want these to display as a block and float left. Okay, now the width, I'm going to make 23%. I want 4 in a row. Cursor is going to be a pointer, and let's say the border radius. Border radius is going to be 5 pixels, and I want to conclude this box sizing and make this border box. This is going to make it so the padding stays within the width. And then margin is going to be a little weird. We're going to do 0, 12, 7, 0, and you'll see that why in a few minutes. Okay, position we want to be relative. Okay, so that's the list items. Now for the actual images in the gallery, I want to say gallery image, and we just want to set the width to 100%. That 100% is to its parent, which is the LI, which has a width of 23%. Okay, so it's only going to take up 23%. Alright, and then the border radius will make 5. Okay, so that looks good. Let's check that out. Alright, looking good. So the last thing we have here is the footer. And the footer, let's see, background of that greenish color, which is 0389cc. I'm going to give it a height of 55 pixels. I'm going to give it a color of white, align the center, and padding top 10. Okay, reload. It looks like I don't have the right color there. Where is it? 03899C. 0389cc. There we go. Alright, so that's our layout. In the next video, I want to do the categorization in jQuery.